All right, call the meeting to order at, for the Physical Plant Committee meeting for April 17th, 2019, to order at 7 p.m. Roll call.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Here?
Thomas Hummel.
Here?
Emily Swissack.
Here.
Jay Fisher.
Here.
John Tiano Weinstein.
Here.
Beth McQuillan.
Here.
Next item on the agenda is opportunity for visitors to speak. Seeing no visitors, I think we will move on. So next item on the agenda is approve minutes of the March 6, 2019 Physical Plant Committee meeting. Have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of the March 6, 2019 Physical Plant Committee meeting.
Second?
Second. Any discussion? No discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Hummel.
Yes.
Emily Swissack.
Aye.
Jay Fisher.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda is HVAC project for administrative update, offices update.
Okay, so as mentioned at the last meeting, our first quote for the work to be done in the admin offices was around $10,000. And so we opted to seek some other quotes from other vendors. And in that venture, many of those companies wished to be contracted. So they didn't really want to provide us with a quote for the smaller job without us promising them to have more in the future. So when we learned that, we contacted our current vendor and asked if they could revise and take another look at the quote that they sent us. Because in the process of talking to the other vendors, when they came in, and I know Beth had some walkthroughs with them, they did mention some other configurations that could be done. So we brought that information to our current vendor, and they did revise the quote. So you see in your packet, there is one for less money. So we are going to move forward with them and start that project. I don't know if Beth's got some scheduling information.
The latest, they have to come and do some measurements, but they said that it would probably be the first or second week of May.
Okay, so we're going to move forward with that. That's it.
Any questions on this topic? And just to confirm, this is the current vendor we use for air conditioning too. No questions or comments on that? And then the next item on the agenda is update to the seal coating of the parking lot.
Okay, so we received our quote, and you see that in your packet. We do seal coat and stripe the parking lot approximately every 2 years. This quote is comparable to the quote we had, or the work we had done in 2017, give or take about $500. So, and I expect, when's our work happening?
Memorial Day weekend,
Okay.
Saturday and Sunday, or Sunday and Monday rather,
Sunday and Monday.
when we're closed.
And that's that for that. We just wanted to update you all on the work and the schedule.
Did this firm do it 2 years ago?
Mhm.
Same firm?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna ask. Good question.
Any other questions or comments on this topic? And just these last two items are under are within your spending authority, so there's any board approval or anything that's in the budget already passed for the past fiscal year.
Yep.
And these are .02 funds. Okay. Alrighty. Next item on the agenda is East End restroom counters update.
Okay, so we invited 4 companies who do countertops and who can provide ADA accessible counters and sinks. You see the quote in the packet under Stevens. They are our current plumber, like when we do the just repair work stuff. The quote has the detail in it. We said we would provide you with that. Of the four companies, they all came in around the same price range. One came in at 24,000, one came in at 23,000, Stevens is at almost 21, the other one came in at 23. So all around the same stuff. Same materials for the most part, same demolition kind of scenario, although some of the others were at a higher price. So we're gonna move forward with Stevens if you all agree there, but we haven't scheduled it out yet.
The, you see the name of the person we've been working with is Frank Piersick. Frank had said that he was checking today with the fabricator for the counters and working with their plumbing schedule for construction. They would mesh these two to make sure that they could do them together so that it would take less time. That the library would be without restrooms at this end of the building, so they want to work those two schedules together.
How many days is the project?
It's 2 to 3, you know, it's
3
1 day
days.
for demolition, a second day for install, and if they can do that all in the 1 day, the third day might just be some testing and making sure that everything is as they want it to be, cleanup.
And didn't he mention something end of June or early July?
Oh,
So
yes.
it would probably go into the next fiscal year.
Would it be able to go around, would we have like any days closed for around 4th of July or no? I mean, not that, of course you want to play a plumber.
Kind of an
Yeah,
but
that's
I-
not gonna happen on
No,
Yeah.
I mean, he already mentioned that he doesn't have they don't really have crews
Yeah.
that work weekends.
Okay. All right.
But it was interesting to see that all four came in around the same price, same materials. One of them was super vague. They didn't even let us know what the materials would be. They just said, what did they say? Solid surface tops, which, yeah, not so clear. The others were, like I said, pretty similar. So since Stevens came in as the lowest, we thought we'd go forward.
And I know he's our current vendor. You said, has he ever done a project for us though, besides just regular?
I don't think major, I know they've replaced some like faucets and sinks, but not with a countertop. We haven't had that done.
I didn't go back and look at like past records when the
Okay.
library was remodeled and they kind of did some of the new stalls.
I don't know if they did much with these restrooms outside of like aesthetic. you know,
Right, yeah.
so.
didn't you say once, Beth, that there weren't many firms that did this type of reconstruction? Maybe I'm thinking of another project.
No, well, yes.
Oh, okay.
When we were calling, they weren't
They
interested.
weren't
They said they're
interested.
commercial, but they would like to do
Larger.
build outs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, larger.
Not,
Okay.
not sort of where we're just doing a small
Sure.
project.
Okay. And there's, with the renovation, what about are there changing tables in there now? I mean, I don't really pay
In here,
attention.
there are, yeah.
So those would remain where they are, they stay,
They're just a wall unit that folds down.
okay, and
like-
that will remain the way it
Yes.
is? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Now, this one is a 21,000 dollars. So this one need board approval?
No,
No.
it's under 25.
25 is
25 is the
limit.
limit, that's right. Okay, so, alrighty, so any more questions or comments on this topic?
Nope.
Okay, fine. So the next one is landscaping and disease tree update.
Okay, so in your packet, you see a save a tree quote. We do have some trees on our property that we've had some concerns with, and actually this stems from even last year at Summer Reed. If you remember we had the kickoff party, and over our hardscape area, there's some really tall trees. Don't ask me what
Hickory.
they are. Hickory. But there was some creaking happening, and I was worried. I was like, are these dry? Is that why they're creaking? Because we're in summer and they shouldn't be. So we had Save a Tree come out, and Beth's got some more detail on that.
So we've worked with the arborist here on, he helped us last year after we talked about the summer reed and took a couple diseased dead trees out right behind that hardscape area. So we asked him back to help us evaluate what to do on because we noticed that there were a lot of overgrowth in certain areas. So the east parking lot over here, there's a lot more hickory trees over there, and he showed me where they're stopped growing, they're rotting from the inside, they're hollow, and just the safety feature, because they're right at the curb line practically, that where if they fell, they'd come right into the parking lot. So they, all the way up to the east parking around the dumpsters, there's a couple mulberry trees up there, some buckthorn, things that are way coming over the parking lot, and again, they're diseased or rotting, I should say. And then also they've looked at along the sidewalk, especially where we abut our neighbors, there's some trees that come over the sidewalk. So we want to make sure that those are cleaned up and safe for people, so we're a good neighbor.
Is this the Front Street property you're talking about, or the King?
Both.
Okay.
Both on Kingston and right where we adjoin our other
They
properties.
were working today when I came in.
Yes, yes, so they've done the area up by the dumpsters, they've done the area behind the hardscape there, and I think the next spot will be right outside the entrance here. That will be the last, so it was 3 days of work. And then, as you can see on the proposal, there's some planting to the flowering shrubs, so they'll flower now, and the best time to prune them is in November and December to cut them back. So that work will be done fall, winter.
Is that amount, the $26.50, are we going to pay that now?
No.
And then it'll be done, we
We'll
won't
pay
pay till
that
it's
when they
done?
do that work.
Okay.
So the total of the project is like $11,150, but the last $26.50 is in the fall.
It'll be in the
Correct.
next fiscal year.
And this, the general, this is coming soon, on the first 8,500. by
It's
this-
happening now.
Yeah, no, okay. So it looks like it's cleaned up, like even in front. Was that just cleaned up, or is that just because it's springtime? Because like, when I was driving down Kingston today, it looked like you could see the front of the building, maybe it's because it's just cleaned up. No leaves.
They kind of did that
Yeah.
That was
section.
done
Yeah.
before.
That was,
Yeah.
the section was done last year,
Yeah.
but this, it's really on the other side of the driveway.
Okay, yeah, because it looked
Is
really.
that fence where they were cleaning up today, is that ours?
Yes.
I assume, because we own the lot.
Yes, was it a year ago or 2 years
Yeah.
ago that we had replaced some,
It looks new, maybe the trees were hiding it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever
we
noticed
had
that
to replace
fence.
some sections of it
Okay.
because they were falling
Yeah.
a year or two ago.
I mean, I know we thinned out the front, but today for some reason, I don't know, it just seemed like it was more wide open, maybe just because they did some cleanup in it.
I don't think they were working out there.
Well, I mean, just like, just probably just the spring cleanup. I don't
You're
know,
talking
it
about
just
you're
looked
talking about by
fresh.
the table out there?
Yeah, it looked.
It's been like that since they
Yeah, from
cut those
last-
trees
yeah,
down,
but I mean,
yeah.
it just seemed really wide open for, I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
I noticed.
Maybe
it.
you looked from a different
Yeah,
angle.
that might have been it.
Maybe you look.
Maybe you
No, I
looked.
looked,
Maybe you
so.
looked.
Any other questions or comments on this topic?
No,
All right, next topic is, or next agenda item is annual fire safety check information.
Okay, so we had Chicago Metro Fire here to do the backflow sprinkler testing, smoke detector testing, and fire extinguisher check. Some of the fire extinguishers were changed out. We still need the fire alarms tested and the elevator detection system tested. The tamper-proof device was installed for the sprinkler system, and that's wired to our fire panel. So that's all done, that got done since our last meeting. And then we also had I'll just call it a fire box installed that houses like auxiliary batteries to the fire panel that's connected to our elevator. Is that correct?
No, the fire panels.
The whole panels? Okay.
Right.
And in case we have an electrical outage, so we've got a battery box in our storage room, so that got
Right.
done. And
The batteries were already, there were batteries connected to the old panel. The inspector asked for a specific kind of battery for this new panel, so that was the work, and they no longer fit in the panel, so it needed a box to store these batteries, so that was part of that work.
Anything else with the fire truck?
Um,
We passed all our tests, right?
Yes, there's a couple things that have to, one of the things that has to be done is there's a few small heat detectors that are in the mechanical rooms. And the Lisle Woodridge Fire Department is asking for those to be modernized to the next code level. So, but they're, they tell me that those are like $40 items than the cost of installation, but there's just several of them in the mechanical rooms. So that'll probably be done when they come to test the fire alarms, and they're gonna call us. We'd like to do that in the morning before the library's open.
It's very loud.
Oh, yeah.
And they're on for about
I-
5 minutes
yeah,
or
I
so.
went through work with that recently.
Yes.
That one. Anybody else with questions or comments on this topic?
So it is the annual check that's kind of just a time, April, when they do these for us. And it's nice that they do all of them, so we're not, it's not spread out throughout the year.
All right, moving along. Next one, I know we're a lot of interest in is the technology plan outline.
Okay, so you're all provided this draft, and I have to stress, this is a super draft. I worked with our IT manager to put this together, although again, the format is not optimal. It's in alphabetical order instead of by quarter or by status. But I did want to apprise everybody that we are looking at a plan, and we want to go beyond just what's shown here. So right now we're showing a calendar year via quarter. That's the way she likes to work and makes sense for her. So everything that's grayed out is work that has been completed. Everything else is scheduled out by quarter. And if you have any questions, I will try to answer them for you. But it flips over onto the next side. But this is all of the work she's got planned for the next, like I said, calendar year. I'd like to see a 3-year plan that kind of mirrors our strategic plan, but we're not there yet. But again, we're working on it. I don't think the completed technology plan will look like this. I think this would be like a component of it. We'd like something written, like a narrative that went along with it, but we're moving along.
So when you say calendar year, is this going through just the end of this year or?
Through December.
December of 2019? Okay,
So we're through the first quarter.
gotcha. And then, okay, so then, like where it says Q2 2020, that's fiscal year 1920, second quarter?
Where is it?
Like something like here?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
that would be the next,
So like,
next,
so like October through December of 2019?
yes.
Okay.
Does this cover, at the last board meeting, there were some questions about the type of equipment and how many, I just see public monitor installation, public monitor.
Yeah, some of them do purchase 10 monitors,
Two.
purchase 10 monitors, purchase 20
Okay.
Windows PCs. Some of them do have the numbers in there.
So what kind of dollar figure are we talking about? Do we have any idea?
Some of them will require pulling quotes for, because some of them
Okay.
are in winter. So we can look at that. I believe that some of these were in our
Yeah, that one that went
chart.
great.
There was some,
Still have that, yeah.
yeah. But when we create the plan and actually write it out, we can put in some dollar amounts, some estimates there.
Okay.
Yeah, because it
Is
probably.
that
yeah,
what people would like to see?
Yeah, I would definitely want, definitely want to show dollar amounts or estimates. Absolutely. So we know what we're dealing with. Now, actually, as I'm looking down, purchase security cameras, that's the one for the west end of the building?
No, that's been done.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So is this another one now?
Yeah, there's 2 on our, what end is that? North side?
One's on the north side and one's on the south side.
East side.
East
side.
corner, southeast side.
So- North
Yeah,
corner,
there are two of the older models that need to be replaced. It's because those are the two that receive the most activity, and the card capacity, it doesn't hold as much data as we need, so we need to replace those two
So these
to
are-
match the others.
So these are replacements.
Yes.
So that's the one that's the second from the bottom that says install date is tomorrow? Install 2 replacement
Yes, and
cameras?
then,
Oh, okay.
I thought
Why-
there was something here. Install 2 replacement cameras. Maybe she just verbally told me this. We were trying to scramble to get this, so at least you know where we're at in terms of
Right.
the plan itself. I thought she mentioned something about, it's escaped me. Security camera
Well,
installation.
there's the purchase security camera, then there's the security.
Installation.
So are those two separate or those
Mm-mm,
related?
it's the
Those
same
are-
project.
It's the same project.
It's just format wise, it's
It's
not.
the way
Okay.
she does it, that it's a purchase and then an install,
Gotcha.
so it's on there twice.
But we will clean this.
Yeah, because like on the back page,
Presentation.
there's switch installation and switch purchase.
Right.
So it's, yeah,
That's-
which is the same thing. It's just one is purchased and one is installed.
I think if she had had the invoice, then it would have been like grayed out.
Right.
We will do this differently.
No, that's fine.
It's a starting point.
Yeah. Just documenting. It
Right.
took her a while to document it all and to parse it out
Right.
throughout the year.
Now, is this, okay, that actually answered my question as I look. So this is a combination for like staff equipment as well as public equipment? Okay. Any other questions or comments on this draft? Alrighty, then we will move on to item number 10, which is parking lot lighting information.
I'm gonna turn that over to Beth. The information there.
It's been troubleshooting from our electrician, and they figured out which pole it is, and they're gonna rewire the pole.
Let me restate what the problem is.
Oh, I'm sorry. The parking lot lights don't stay on. Or they can kind of isolate them in sections, but then if the one pole that's an issue arcs, and that's kind of where the electrical comes out of the building to that pole and then spreads to the rest of the east parking lot. So they will be next week here and rewire that pole. And also there's a relay switch in the mechanical room here at the east end that operates that, and they're replacing that also.
And that should solve the problem.
I hope so.
So it's like those Christmas lights, one light goes out the
Yeah.
other.
Yes,
Right.
and that's very similar to some of the problem.
Okay. And it was the cost was not that large on it, was it?
I don't expect
Okay,
it to
yeah,
be
okay.
until they get in there and actually.
Sure.
Because of the weather, they
That's true,
didn't get into
yeah.
the pole.
Any questions or comments on that topic?
Is it still intermittent?
No, they've actually turned it off this week because it seemed to be
That one
arcing.
particular,
No, they had to take everything because the relay also wasn't working properly.
so it's gonna be dark out there in that area?
Yes.
So expect
Yes.
some darkness when you walk outside tonight. Okay.
Okay, item 11, building assessment stormwater update.
Okay. So since our last committee meeting, Beth and I met with Jack Hayes of FQC, and then Beth met again with him on the 3rd to go over some internal maps and some repair documents for the last couple years. And I plan to meet with Jack again next week to provide a tour to him. I mean, he knows our building, but he's going to also bring a couple of his colleagues, maybe, I'm not sure who, maybe an electrician, maybe a plumber, not sure. But we're gonna have a tour inside and out of the building. He did mention that at our last meeting here with Jack, he mentioned that he was still reviewing the stormwater videos. And he did confirm that some work should be done this coming summer season to avoid some future flooding. And at the time, he said it's still up in the air, but I have some late breaking news as of this afternoon, so I'll get to that in a moment. He also mentioned that there were some other priorities. So when we initially met with him, he walked around the building and with Beth the second time, that there's some curb work that he would recommend taking care of right away.
I just tripped on it.
Oh, no. Yeah, there are some major issues with some of our curbs and some of our sidewalk sections. So he mentioned taking care of that. He also said that replacing the air handlers or components was a priority. And we did replace some of the motors in 2 of the air handlers, correct?
Yes.
And maybe a sensor in 1 of them, but we have 4, so he recommends taking care of those 4. So we don't run into the same problems we've run into for the last couple of summers. When we talked about that, I know you brought that up, that we've done some work with the air handlers. We don't want to run into the same situation we did with the elevator, where we were band-aiding it and doing small components, and then one day it just, kaput. So he suggests taking care of those. So here's the late breaking news. He sent me an email at 3:34 today, so I'm just going to read it because it does explain a little more about what some of his findings from viewing the videos. So he said, the initial recommendations to maintain the system and keep the restrictors cleaned out is the most important part of the report. And the report he's talking about is that Sewer report. So maintaining the restrictors and keeping them cleaned out is the most important part. It would appear from the report and videos provided that the age of the storm sewer system has led to the conditions you experienced with water backing up into the detention areas and parking lot. The primary cause of these events would appear to be the accumulation over many years of debris into the storm sewer systems, especially at the restrictors. Developing a routine maintenance program, cleaning and televising will result in improved performance of the system and a reduction of the system backing up. The system as designed and installed should not be changed. The restrictors should remain in place as they are a critical part of how the system works in terms of collection, drainage, and flow rates. They must, however, be maintained given the age of the installation. So that's the first part of his email. So I will, again, meeting with him next week, I will have more information, but he knew we were having a meeting tonight, so we wanted to provide something for us. So he's really recommending a maintenance for those restrictors. So the second part, the recommendation for a repair between manhole 2HT49 to 2HT42 is important. So the large offset could result in deterioration of the earth around the pipe and also significantly impact the performance of the sewer system in that area. I would recommend doing this work this summer. So there is some work regarding the offset, right?
Now, which sewers, which off the top of your head?
Yes, it's the one that,
I got the map if you want to look at it.
it's the ones closer to Front Street that runs along like the sidewalk.
So we looked at that map.
Okay.
Yeah, it's over
I didn't know
there.
if Tom wanted
And
to
he
see
said
it.
that-
Not that I would know what,
Yeah, I just tried to know, just so we know.
I'll find out more, but he
Okay.
did say this is highly recommended, and we don't want a problem with our sewer and the earth around the sewer pipes over there. Okay, and then the last part
wait,
of,
do you want to finish or should, you mentioned the offset? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, I finally get where
Well, they don't,
they don't.
they're not
one-
flush, like, right?
Right,
It's like this.
Right, you're like,
Correct.
you're
They're
like this.
offset.
the
Yeah,
large
Okay.
offset could
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm real concerned
pipes,
about
yeah.
that for some reason.
Okay, and then the last
That
part.
makes sense because it doesn't allow the water to run
Exactly.
smoothly through it, yeah.
The balance of the recommendations for, remember the SIP lining, CIPP lining, he said, were provided due to the age of the concrete pipes. The areas identified in the summary show evidence of cracking in areas, mineral deposit collection, and a couple of areas where the pipes were slightly separated. These occurrences should be monitored for further deterioration. They don't pose an immediate concern, but these corrective measures should be budgeted and planned for over the course of 2 to 5 years. So we need to think about that. So that SIP, and we don't have a quote for that, or do we? Did we have one in that Sewer? I know they don't do that work, but did they quote us out
Right, that was about total $79,000.
for doing all of the concrete pipes, like the liner? So he's saying it's not an immediate, like, you gotta do it this summer, but he does recommend planning for it for the next 2 to 5 years.
Okay.
Okay? So, That's my late breaking news from Jack. And again, I'm meeting with him, I'm thinking midweek, and he should provide more information.
Do we need to approve something to start on the restrictors? I mean, is this going to be a bid part and parcel? Like, we'll
Let me meet
we'll
with him and
approve the
see.
whole amount, or do it in increments?
Let me meet with him and get a little bit
Okay.
more, I mean, he just sent me these like 3 little, like, here's some information for
Right.
your meeting. He'll
Sure.
provide a little bit more.
Okay.
I was talking to Beth about it because we were looking at that Viso sewer report, and just in terms of this offset from like manhole this to manhole that, one of them, I think in the Viso sewer quoted $10,000 for
Right.
one. So.
For the
if it's-
offset.
If it's just $10,000 for one, we wouldn't have to go for bid, if that's
Right.
all we were doing.
That was the most
Okay.
extensive repair, I think. Was that, I mean, as an offset goes, I mean, 10,000 for one offset.
I wouldn't know, but
Oh,
that was
okay.
what was quoted or suggested as,
Right.
as
Okay.
an estimate.
Possible estimate.
Visu Sewer doesn't do that kind of work.
Oh, okay.
So Jack will have more information.
And
Great.
we did clean the restrictor out last July or August, whenever that was, and so we'll be talking to him and saying, okay, do we need to do this again?
Every year, is this every 2 years? He's recommending that we don't change anything there with restrictors, because that's kind of
Part of this stormwater plan for the library.
for the property. So he's just recommending cleaning and flushing, so. How often? I'm not sure.
Right.
We'll see.
When would we do the curbs that you mentioned?
I would imagine this summer.
Okay.
And depending on how much we do, I think we've identified areas around the building, but I think we have to more concretely, no pun intended, identify where we want the work to be done, because it could be something where we wouldn't have to go out for bid, or we may have to, depending on how much.
How
we do.
involved it is.
So we could even ask Jack next week, walking around, what is imperative? And then make some like chalk marks and then cost it out.
Okay.
Okay.
When we get further in the process with this, do you think we should bring them to either a physical plant meeting or?
I'm sure I'd be happy to
or
come to
full board meeting even?
I think it would come to a physical plant meeting.
Somebody else
Yeah,
had a
that's a good idea.
question.
I was just
we're
gonna say
looking
that Jack Hayes could probably tell us a good, industry estimate for how many feet of, what a cost per foot of curbing repair is.
We'll ask.
Okay.
at. Any more questions, comments on building assessment stormwater? Okay. Then the item number 12 is Village of Lisle 2019 road construction program information.
So this is in the packet. This is just informational. We wanted to apprise the committee of the village's notification of road closures, but there's really no time frame on there, but we just wanted to put that in the packet and make you aware.
So we got Front Street
Yeah.
from Kingston to Westview, which is pretty much the whole way to Front Street, at least
Yeah.
going this way.
So that's going to affect,
It doesn't
Parking
say
lot.
really
Yeah.
closures, but they're going to
This is repaving, right?
rehab it. I think that's where they dig it out and
Oh, okay.
resurface it.
yeah, they did really
Yeah, that's what it
last year.
says. Yeah.
You did?
Remove of
Yeah,
the
well, they leave
asphalt.
it open until the final day of the asphalting,
Okay.
because then they do the whole, that takes all day.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to know exactly when. Let's not have it during summer reading, but we'll connect with the village.
It would be nice to know the date, right?
Yeah.
And are they gonna do the whole thing at once or piecemeal? Yes, I mean, just might wanna get dates
We'll
and-
reach out.
and
Yeah.
there's- especially in front of the building.
We just received this, so.
And then actually kind of going back then to the last topic, so I know wasn't one of the sewer repairs or manhole numbers, was it along Front Street, would that interfere, if we were to do anything with that, would that interfere with this?
It's
or
a good
would-
thought,
Yeah.
and we'll have to coordinate that.
Okay. They might want to double check to make sure that's, if it's okay, if you, were to do it simultaneously, or you wanna do it, I would assume afterwards, I don't know if you wanna do it beforehand or whatever, I don't know.
It might be better than before.
Okay, we might be better to do
Yeah.
it beforehand, I don't know, with all the pounding and stuff, I don't know. But then I don't know if we wanna dig up the road too accidentally, so, I don't know, that, they
Yeah.
might wanna coordinate with the village. on
We'll
that.
connect with them.
Yeah. Any questions, comments on that topic?
No?
Anybody have anything else?
Well,
Oh.
Beth and I were talking about a next meeting, and
Mhm.
since we were kind of butting up against a new board and everything, so we were thinking of, since I'm meeting with Jack and all that, June? But I don't have a date yet, but are you all okay with skipping May and moving to a June meeting? So by that
You okay with
time.
June, or you don't, any May, do you want a May meeting, or would you,
No.
June? Okay.
Well, we have, in May, we have our regular board meeting, and then we're gonna have a special meeting electing officers with a new board. As of May 20th, we'll have new new
Committee
officials.
members, yeah.
And then we're, in June, I think we should get through one board meeting, and then hopefully have a
So you're-
physical plant
you're
meeting
looking-
after that.
Go ahead.
Could we have a June meeting before the June board meeting? In the event we have new news, which we will.
Say
And we
again?
might,
She's asking, could you have a meeting before?
could we have a
Yeah.
physical plant committee meeting before the June board meeting? In June, like, what is the date of the June meeting? I know I've got it on my calendar. Just in the event
12? Is it 12?
we have new figures, we might want to make a recommendation, unless everything is under the 25,000.
Well,
Because
we can
otherwise, the committee has to
Yeah.
recommend,
Yeah,
correct?
so would you rather, I guess we just play it by ear if we need to do it before the board meeting, or?
Okay, we
Okay.
can
I
do
mean,
that.
if we, I know what
No,
you're saying, I
that-
mean,
But yeah,
it
no,
makes
it makes
sense.
sense what you're saying.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. So let me meet with Jack and see where
Yeah.
his head's at with all of
Okay.
these projects.
Sure.
And then I'll let you all know via email if we should probably have a pre-board
Yeah.
physical.
Because just in case, like, there's something we could start doing, we could vote on it in June.
Right.
The June
Right,
board meeting, instead of
exactly,
waiting.
With a
instead of waiting
recommendation from our
another month.
committee.
And then
Yeah,
if I have to go
yeah.
through the whole bid process, that takes a month or two,
Yes,
then,
a month, yeah.
so the next thing you're already in the fall.
Exactly.
So,
Okay.
I mean, so if you just.
I will ask
mean,
Jack.
We'll
Great.
shoot for June at some point.
Yes.
Okay,
Anything else from, anybody else got a question, comment, or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, then can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned at 7:37.